I'm not ashamed to admit that at the age of 24, with 2 degrees under my belt, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with my life. I have a feeling I'm not alone in this regard. I'm just gonna go drive around, see some places I haven't seen in a while. You're just constantly told from a very young age that you're going to make it, or you need to do XYZ thing and then you'll succeed, because what is presumed as valuable and good in this society is the fact that you exploit yourself in the form of labor, and the fact that you get a full-time job and you need to reproduce, you need to marry, you need to have children. And I think a lot of today's younger people are becoming disillusioned with that mindset. Less and less people want to have kids, less and less people want to start families, less and less people want to be fully exploited, and we're seeing more and more value placed on things like friendships and community-based things and solidarity of the working class. At the same time, if you're not fitting into that mold that people set out for you, that society sets out for you to be, if you're not fitting into that mold, then all of a sudden you find yourself isolated from the rest of society. You kind of find yourself as othered, as an outsider. I guess if anything, I'm just tired of letting myself down all the time. There's this notion of, if bad things happen to you, if you lose a job and you're homeless, that's your fault for not assimilating enough into your work environment or to society. The fact that you don't have a job means you're inherently worthless. The fact that you can't provide labor for people who designate only certain things as valuable and other things are not valuable, if you don't provide labor in that specific context, then you're worthless. If you're like me and you're struggling to find a sense of self-worth through you not having a job and having to live back with your parents' house, you expect it to be so much more than you at the age you're at than you are right now. If you're like me in any regard, I need you to look at me. This is me talking to you on the other side of the camera right now. This is not me recording a YouTube video. This is me talking directly to you, the viewer. You are not a failure. I'm going to say that again for emphasis. You are not a failure. Okay? You are a splendid human being. You are so much more than what capitalism has deemed you as. You are so much more than that. You are so much more than that. You are not a failure. You are not lazy. Laziness does not exist. You are so much more than what capitalism has deemed you. I have 2 degrees. I'm in a crippling amount of student loan debt, and I don't really have a decent way to get out of it. I got my master's degree in 2020, the year the pandemic hit, and I couldn't afford rent, so I moved back in with my mom during the summer of 2020. I moved back out to New York City in the fall of 2020, tried to find a job and couldn't for about half a year, and then here I am moving finally back with my parents in the spring of 2021. I guess that's just a little bit about me and like why I guess I'm quote-unquote qualified to make this video. I don't even know if I'm qualified to do anything, though, to be honest. I was taught to focus on a very specific way to be successful as a musician, and right as I start moving into the real world, right as I graduate, all of those opportunities for music and everything just gets taken away. For example, the Metropolitan Opera stopped paying their musicians during the pandemic, and it got to the point where the orchestra musicians went on strike. That's just one example of these big institutions of classical music, big institutions of the sort of music that I spent a lot of money and a lot of my time training to be a part of. We're seeing these institutions kind of collapse or lose a lot of their strength before our very eyes, and neither me nor my teachers really have a way to deal with that or to reconcile with that in any meaningful way. And meanwhile, here we are, the students, kind of stuck with an insurmountable amount of student loan debt and not really a good way to pay it off if you're like me and if you're not blessed with good income parents. Honestly, when I just kind of say it out loud like that, it only makes sense that I've had to leapfrog back into my parents' houses, even though I didn't want to do that, even though I intended fully to stay in New York City and get a job and be self-sufficient. But of course it makes sense when I put it like that, and I've been struggling, and it's like, here I am now, unable to make a living and moving back in with my parents and living in my mom's basement proverbially. And there's kind of a stigma around that in society's view, that if you're doing this, then you're automatically a reject or a failure. And I feel like that's a very common sentiment these days. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this video was to push back on that narrative a little bit, because I feel like that can be pretty toxic, a pretty toxic mentality to hold, as if, you're beating yourself up and you're beating up on other people for not succeeding in a way that you have deemed valuable or that you have deemed worthy, is a pretty shitty way to go about your day and to go about your business. And also because I struggle with feelings of inadequacy and feelings of failure, because I set these goals for myself and I spent all this time and money trying to achieve a singular vision in my career, and see that just kind of vanish before my very eyes, and I'm kind of left with no way to pay off my student debt in a meaningful way. Just because you haven't fulfilled certain expectations that have been placed on you by society does not make you less valuable of a person or less valuable of a human being. You still matter. Your thoughts and feelings and actions and worth as an individual will always matter, whether you're employed or not, whether you provide value in the form of exploitable labor or not. You still matter, and you still deserve to exist in this world. If you're still watching after all my ramblings and random tangents, thanks for watching, I guess. Yeah, if you like this sort of thing, these sorts of discussions that I'm having here, if you find this content interesting at all, go ahead and I guess like the video or something. If not, I guess you don't have to. The last thing I wanted to say was that I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what the future of this channel is going to be. I hope it's a good future. The one thing I wanted people to take away from this whole video was, if anything, to be kinder to yourself and to take as many naps as your livelihood will allow. Go hydrate, go be amazing human beings. And as much as possible, don't be beholden to the capitalists, and don't be beholden to the bootlickers either. They don't control your life as much as they want to. As much as they'd like to think that they do. They don't. Take it easy.